guys. Welcome to the Soul Gym. Today, we're going to have a slightly different episode. The beginning, I wanted to sort of introduce you guys to me a little bit and give you a little background of my journey and my story and how I made it into YouTube. Um, Today, I would like to get into questions that I believe every human being asks themselves at some point in their life. And the three main questions, which are: is there a creator? What is my purpose in life? And then, is there life after death? So, if we do go back in time, people back then were more connected to nature. People back then used to look at the sun and they used to think, wow, it's so beautiful. There must be a sun god. And then they would look at the moon and they would think it's so beautiful. There must be a moon god. And then it will rain and they would think there must be a rain god. And this is where like paganism and all of these different ideologies came from, where people started believing in more than one god, um, because people were more connected to nature and they had more time to spend outdoors, not like us. And they were able to see the beauty around them and really admire the creations and determine that there is no way that there was not a higher being in control of all of these things. Now, how did that higher being look like? Vary to different people. Over time, and with the technological advancements, and with human beings becoming more independent and more separated from nature, um, we started having more of a shift towards atheism, towards people believing that there is no creator and we just happen to exist. And astaghfirullah, like, obviously, these things like just decrease from the glory of God Himself, like to associate other creators with Him or to believe that He does not exist. Um, this debate of maybe there's more than one creator, even nowadays, I believe, had by some people, is just, impossible. Like, if we had more than one creator, then we would clearly see the signs around us. Um, you would see differences in the creation. You would see differences in the way our ecosystems work. You would see differences in the day and night, differences in just every element of life. I mean, every god would have his own brand or logo to show for. Yet, our world is just so consistent. We know that all the bases of life are all the same. Every living thing is created from water, and we know that there's certain food chains, and we know that there's certain way um, plants grow, and just so many different things. So we clearly see that, and we see that it's impossible that there's more than one God, and we just see our God's beauty and perfection in everything in this world. Now, the next question that is always on people's mind is, what is my purpose? Now, if you're chasing this purpose from a material direction, then you will never be able to fulfill what you think your purpose is. You could think your purpose is to become a successful businessman or a successful businesswoman. And once you do achieve that and you gain all the success in the world, you start searching for another purpose. Or you can think that your purpose is to reach a certain position within a company. And once you reach that position, you realize it's not enough. And this is because we human beings are never satisfied and we always want more. This is something instilled in us by God. So the only time that we truly will feel satisfied is when we chase or try to find what our purpose is from a soul direction, from an out of this world direction. In this world, it will never be enough. And I would like to obviously get into that in a little bit more details later on in the video. But generally, I believe that when I actually did start researching religions and researching, Islam and what God wants from us, is when I was truly able to realize, what's my general purpose in this life. And then we get to mold that um, in a way as to how God has created us or what interests He instilled in us. Now, the last question I would like to discuss, this is definitely in every single human being's mind at some point, is there life after death? We all know that we are born into this earth, and we know that we leave this earth when we die. So it's the $1 million question, I believe, nowadays. I mean, not even nowadays, probably since humans were created. Everyone is wondering, where are we going to go? What's going to happen when we do die? And even if you were not someone who has yet thought about this question, you will eventually think about this question, because it will pop into your mind if you are forced to face a situation where maybe you had to face an illness, or maybe someone around you has had to unfortunately pass away, or if you are maybe just getting older and you are forced to face this scary reality that we are all going to die at some point. Now, if you believe that when we die, it's just lights out and it's darkness, then it's a very scary thing to think about. And you will live your whole life just scared and having that fear of death. For someone who believes in God, and when you understand that God does exist, and you understand that God is just waiting for us on the other side, and that He created this life as a way to test us, or to basically filter out and just have the best of His creations up there with Him, and to filter out all the horrible souls and the mean souls in this earth. And then you realize that, death is not a scary thought. It's actually something beautiful and something you start to look forward to when you see how messed up our world is. For me, um, when these questions were answered, and when I felt this, oh my God, aha moment, is when I started researching and reading the Quran. You know, as I maybe mentioned before, the first thing I wanted to know is there a creator? And I mentioned before that you guys need to listen to Yusuf Estes. I love him. He's amazing. So his way of just explaining things were just beautiful. He mentioned how um, people believe that we just happen to exist and there was no creator, and that the world just happened from a big bang. And when you do think of a big bang, you do not think of order, organization, beauty. When you think of a big bang, you think of destruction, um, a mess, which is complete opposite of what we see around us. So just our brains logically tell us that we cannot accept that reality. If you see a building and you stand there and you admire how beautiful this building is, you're not just going to think that, oh, this building just happened to appear overnight. You will know that this building must have had someone who created, who built the building, and then someone who designed it, and someone who thought about the structure and, all the details. I mean, there's no way that it just happens. If you think of a phone, you know, would I be able to convince you right now that this phone just, it was in the desert, and the desert sand mixed with water and mixed with wind, and it all did like a little tornado thing, and then it gave me an iPhone? You will not believe that. So why are we supposed to, you know, believe when they just tell us that it was just a big bang and we just happened to appear with our perfection, with every detail, like every detail. Do you guys understand that even if you have a deficiency in one vitamin, it creates a huge issue for you? But how crazy is that? That we are so detailed to that extent, and then we're meant to just believe it just happened. It just baffles me. But so anyways, so obviously, like looking into it, and I'm like, okay, am I stupid? Like obviously, we do have a creator. There is no way. There's no way. I can't just look at the sky. I can't look at the sun. I can't look at the timings of everything, how the sun sets and the moon, shows, and then how the sun rises, and everything is just so perfectly timed. How our ecosystems work, how like we have fruits just for us, how we have trees just for us, how we have animals so that we can ride them and eat from them. And, so it really, when you zoom out, you start realizing that, wow, like I am just a creation and I'm placed here, and someone put all of this for me to be able to live. Did not just happen to appear, and it's not just because of our human intellect. Because as far as like our human advancement and technological advancement, they can't even create a finger that will move like this, so they can try, but you will never be able to create something as perfect as God's creations. And even in the imperfect things that God has created, you still find perfection. Now, since the time that Adam was created, and according to the Quran, God tells the angels that إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة, which is I am placing on this earth someone who I will appoint, like a caregiver, or someone to represent me, a representment of me on this earth. Then he instructed the angels to bow down to Adam. And this was from the beauty of what the creation that God has just created. So I don't know if you guys are familiar or not. I think you guys really should look into it, and you should look into Nouman Ali Khan's Surah Al Baqarah, which is chapter 2 of the Quran. And he breaks down the surah ayah by ayah, which is verse by verse. And it is just the most beautiful explanation, because he explains how we human beings, when we were placed on this earth, we were not placed as a punishment. So when we were first created, God already told the angels that He's placing human beings, He's placing, um, a Khalifa on this earth. And when Adam was placed in heaven, this was basically his first lesson from God. And the lesson was to show him how the devil is very capable and very smart, to, even though he was in heaven and there was so much that he can have, the devil was able to make Adam and Eve eat from that one forbidden tree, which is crazy, because if they explored every other tree in heaven till today, they would not be done exploring. But that's just how good the devil is. So God told them to descend down, the three of them, Eve, Adam, and the devil, and Iblis. And he said, فإما يأتينكم مني هدى فمن تبع هداي فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. So God mentioned that He will send guidance, and whoever follows my guidance, then he should have no fear or sadness. And how beautiful is that? Because the two human emotions that we have no control over is fear and sadness. I mean, whatever you do, you cannot remove your fear or sadness. And this is something that is constant in this world, and that you can only suppress or control by having that lifeline connection to God. So, you can be a famous pop star and you can have a number one hit song, but you will always have that fear of someone else coming and outshining you. Or you can have all the money in the world, but have fear of losing it at any point. And then, sadness, so many things around us that can cause sadness to our lives. And most of the times, it's things we can't control. I mean, everyone at some point will experience sadness that they can't control. It's just very beautiful that God did instruct Adam and Hawa at that time. Basically, be careful from Shaitan. He's gonna be is going to constantly try to manipulate you, and at the same time to wait for guidance from me. So, as I mentioned earlier, like people before used to clearly, be more in tune with nature, and they would believe in higher powers, but their ideas of higher powers was always wrong. For most of them, it was always thinking of, many different gods, and they would pray to just the wrong things. And he has some guidance. So there's the Abrahamic religions, which are Judaism, Christianity, and then Islam. So what God did was he sent the Torah. The Torah was sent to the Jews at that time, and it was a manual, a guidance um, for them to remind them to believe that there is one God and to believe in the messenger that was sending this word. And, mainly like this is the best way to live your life and how to go about it. So then over time, people started diverting from the original message of God. And so God again sent another prophet, and he sent Isa alayhi salam, which is Jesus in Arabic. It's Isa, who was a miracle birth by Maryam alayhi salam. And every prophet at that time used to come with their own set of miracles. So for the Jews, because at that time we all know the story of Pharaoh, and that time people were known for being the top wizards. And so Musa alayhi salam, his miracle was the cane, and he threw the cane and it turned into a snake. And so the wizards knew that this could not be, from a man, and that they all like went into prostration. So that was Musa's miracle. Then we have Isa's miracle, Jesus. His miracle was healing people and bringing back people from dead, and this was all with God's permission. And um, this was to show that he is a prophet and for people to believe in his words and to remind people to believe in one God and one God only. Again, over time, human beings and the message got distorted, and people were confusing the message and trying to confuse it again in away from the main idea of believing one God. Um, so then God sent the last messenger, and the last messenger was Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. His miracle was the Quran. So the Quran was brought down on the Arabs, and at that time they were known to be illiterate people, but mainly at that time um, people used to enjoy poetry and writing, and Quran came down and it came down to our Prophet Muhammad والسلام, and he was illiterate at the time. So that was his miracle, the fact that he could not read or write. And he came out with words, and the Quran was recited in a way that was never heard before, in a style that was never heard before. I mean, just think about it, like no matter what you try, there would be inspirations inspired from somewhere, but this was something that was never like a style and words and things that were never heard or seen, and especially to come out of someone who was illiterate. So the Quran came out to Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and this was revealed over the period of 23 years. So obviously, a lot of people did not want to follow him, and they were trying to kill the prophet, and they were trying to go against him. And um, eventually, over the years, he had his companions and he had people that believed in his message. I mean, the same as with every prophet that comes out. So, what we know from the Quran is that we've had many different prophets, some that we don't even know their names, because God hasn't mentioned them. But throughout the human history, God has always sent people to come out and to remind people like, hey, believe in me, believe in one God, and try to do good. And reading the Quran, it made me realize something very important. It made me realize that, all God wants from us is to not associate any partners with Him, and to be good people, and to not hurt others, and, to not wrong others, and to try to be positive influences on this earth, and to always try to, make the world a better place. So, as long as you have that, it is something that automatically then, and only God knows, it's God that decides who comes to heaven or hell. But if you have these basic things, or even like a seedling of faith, then you are able to go to heaven. And which it was something that really confused me over time, because I used to, think like every religion, or I think it's people who don't even read their texts, who don't dive deep into the religions, they start believing that, they start having their own definitions of who will go to heaven, who will go to hell. And it's really wrong. And even in Islam, people would, just start throwing out like, you're this person's gonna go to hell, and this person's gonna go to hell, and he will go to heaven. And it's very wrong, because first of all, like reading the Quran, there's no place in the Quran where God says, you know, if you do wrong, you will go to hell. It's always after places where he mentions, people who believe in more than one creator, people who associate partners with him, people who do wrong, people who hurt others. And no, when doing wrong, it's always where you do wrong to others, not with yourself. Because even in the Quran, it's mentioned that God has created human beings weak, and He does not expect us to be perfect creations. I mean, from the story of Adam, alayhi salam, he did a mistake, which cost him heaven, which is so huge. Like, that's the biggest mistake any human being can make. Adam alayhi salam and Hawa lost heaven for their mistake, and God still gave them a chance to redeem themselves. So, what God wants from us is to just constantly try and constantly, you know, prosper and aspire to do better, and to try to help people around us, to be good to people around us, to contribute positively to this world. And then, most importantly, is to not associate partners with Him. I mean, it doesn't get any much simpler than that. As long as you have these basics, no matter what you believe in or what you're trying to follow or what religion you're trying to follow, then that remains between you and God, whether He knows how much He guided you or not, and He knows what's in your heart. So for people to say that only this person or only this or only this, it's not true, because what I know from the Quran is people of the book will make it to heaven. So it's people that truly, believe that they are following God, and they're trying to follow the one God, and that they're trying to do better in this earth, and they're good people and their hearts are pure. Um, and this gave me so much ease and so much comfort, because so many times I would look and I'm like, okay, but then like there's so many good people out there. There's so many. You can't tell me that all of these people will go to hell. Why would someone go to hell just because they don't believe in the same exact thing? But, we have basic human natures. And really diving into the Quran, like, helped me understand that. And, you know, it just showed me that in the Quran and like our life purpose. Back to the main point, which is, what is our life purpose? Our life purpose is to worship God. And worshiping God does not just mean you're just going to lock yourself somewhere and, you know, pray and pray and pray and read your holy book nonstop. No, worshiping God means believing in one God. It means, you know, living in this earth as God intended for you is worshiping God, you know. Starting a family is worshiping God. Going out there and working is worshiping God. Doing good deeds is worshiping God. Helping build society is worshiping God. So worship comes in many different forms, and everyone's just supposed to, stick to the basics of, you need to try to worship God in in a way that does not insult God. So doing it the right way and trying to refrain from all the tricks of the devil, who will make you think that this vast world where you can stick to the halal, the good things, and he will make you tempted by the few minor haram restrictions or things that you're not supposed to have. And as human beings, like, we can't just follow our instincts and follow, you know, whatever we want to do, because we don't have limits and we don't have boundaries, and we need our creator to set these limits and boundaries for us, and it's not going to be easy. It's like, if you want to have a healthy, nice looking body, then you're gonna have to go and sweat and have a hard time in the gym, and you're going to have to let go of a lot of things that you love that are unhealthy for you. So just because we want something does not mean that it's good for us. And just because something hurts us doesn't mean that it's bad for us. This is determined by God, who knows better. Just knowing this gives you a lot of clarity in what direction you want to take in life, and how you should go about life, and about making decisions. In life, it's like you're on a boat, and life is the water around you, and you have to just float on this boat and try not to allow the water of life to seep into this boat, because if it does, then it will drown you. But if you continue to keep that water outside the boat, then you will just observe it and get to enjoy the beauty of the sea. So, I mean, that's what we need to do. And most importantly, it's build your connection with God. And if you ask God to reveal himself to you and to show you the truth and to show you that he does exist, then God will. But you have to genuinely do it and genuinely mean it. And it's also up to us to research. Nowadays, it's so easy. Like, we don't even have to go to a library and we don't have to, exhaust ourselves much. All we have to do is just click a couple of buttons on our laptop or on our phones, and we are able to access a vast amount of knowledge. So it really is up to us to seek God or to try to put that effort. And if you walk towards God, He comes running. So really just try it. And then the closer your connection becomes with God, the less scared you are going to be of death, and the more excited you will be to be with Him, to be with God. I mean, imagine being in your forever place, being in paradise with all your loved ones, and just having no stress of this world, no worries, no pain. All of this we just leave behind and we just go to our eternal home where we can just, reside in happiness, and we can just relax. And what is this world other than just maybe 80 years, 90 if you're lucky, 100? So really I encourage everyone to start, build your relationship with God, and then this world won't be as difficult anymore. This world will just be, like a play that you're just observing and you're just, um, you know, trying to direct, but you don't really. It's like your own personal life play. You're trying to direct it to the best of your ability, but you can't control what happens with the actors. You can't control whether you'll get the tools. You can't control, external things. You try to control what you can control. And then when things don't go according to your plan, then you're happy because you know that at least this is according to God's plan and He knows what's best for you more than you could ever know. So, thank you guys for watching and thank you for listening through to the end. And hopefully, we'll meet in the next episode.